Sometimes kindness walks into a room wearing the simplest clothes. Sometimes the most beautiful stories begin where judgment ends. If you believe compassion still matters, that love and dignity belong to everyone, rich or poor, take a second right now to like this video, subscribe to Kindness Untold Story, and share it with someone who could use a reminder that hearts, not wallets, define our worth. Now, let me tell you a story you'll never forget. It was a cold afternoon in the heart of the city. Snowflakes danced through the air, landing softly on crowded sidewalks. Inside the Silver Oak, one of the fanciest restaurants in town. Chandeliers sparkled above tables draped in white linen. Waiters glided like dancers between guests, dressed in designer coats. The air was filled with jazz, laughter, and the quiet comfort of people who had everything. At a corner table sat Richard Miller, a businessman in his early 50s. He was dining with his colleagues, laughing about new deals and vacations. His suit alone probably cost more than what some people made in a month. And then the door opened. A hush fell. A woman stepped in then, weary, wrapped in an old winter coat that had seen better days. Her shoes were worn. Her scarf was frayed. Beside her stood a little boy, maybe 6 years old, clutching her hand. His cheeks were pink from the cold, his eyes wide and curious. The hostess at the front frowned slightly. "Can I help you?" she asked, polite but sharp. The woman smiled nervously. I was hoping to get something warm to eat for my son." The hostess's eyes flicked toward the boy, then back to the tables of elegant diners. "This is a fine dining restaurant, Mom," she said stiffly. "Maybe the cafe across the street might," but before she could finish, the boy tugged his mother's sleeve. "Mom, it smells so nice here," he whispered softly. The mother's face fell. She looked embarrassed. "It's okay, sweetheart. Let's go." They turned to leave, and that's when a voice cut through the music. "Wait." It was Richard. Every head turned. Richard stood up, adjusting his tie. "Let them sit," he said calmly. "Bring them a table near the window." The hostess blinked. "Sir, I said bring them a table," he repeated, his tone firm but kind. Whispers rippled through the restaurant. Some guests frowned. Others pretended not to stare. The mother looked frozen, unsure. Richard smiled gently. "Please, ma'am, you and your son are welcome here." The little boy's face lit up. "Really?" "Really," Richard said, smiling. "Everyone deserves a good meal." The hostess hesitated but finally nodded and led them to a small table near the fireplace. The mother whispered thank you as she passed out. As they sat down, she brushed the snow from her son's hair. The warmth of the restaurant wrapped around them like a quiet hug. For the first time that day, she looked a little less tired. As menus arrived, the whispers began again. At a nearby table, a woman in pearls leaned toward her husband. "Can you believe they let them in?" She muttered. "Look at her coat." Her husband sighed. "Maybe it's some kind of charity stunt," he whispered back. A waiter approached their table awkwardly. "Would you like the kids' menu?" he asked. The mother smiled shyly. "Just soup and some bread, please. For both of us." The boy tugged her sleeve. "Mom, can we get the pancakes too?" She hesitated, then nodded. "Okay, pancakes too." When the waiter left, she leaned close to her son. "Eat slowly when it comes, okay? We don't want to bother anyone." He nodded, though his excitement was impossible to hide. At the far table, Richard watched them quietly. Something about the woman tugged at his memory. She looked familiar somehow. When their food arrived, the little boy's joy was contagious. "Mom, it's so good," he said, laughing between bites. For a few moments, even the air in the restaurant felt lighter. Then one of Richard's colleagues, Greg, leaned over. "You're too soft." "Richard," he said, "you know she's probably taking advantage of your sympathy." Richard frowned. Maybe, or maybe she just needed a little kindness. Greg smirked. You can't help everyone? Richard didn't answer, because inside, something stirred, a memory. Years ago, before the suits and the success, there had been a night when he couldn't even afford a meal. And on that night, a stranger had paid for him. He remembered her kindness like it was yesterday. He looked again at the woman, and suddenly, he realized that it was her. He stood and walked toward her table. She looked up quickly. Oh, did we do something wrong? He smiled softly. Not at all. I just wanted to ask, did you ever work at a place called Maple Street Diner about 15 years ago? Her eyes widened. Yes, she said quietly. You remember that? He nodded. I remember more than that. I was a struggling salesman then. I couldn't pay for my meal. And you covered it. You told me, don't worry about it. Hard times don't last forever. Her hand flew to her mouth. That was you? He smiled. That was me. You gave me kindness when I had nothing, and I never forgot it. Tears filled her eyes. I can't believe you remember that. You gave me hope, Richard said gently. Now it's my turn. He waved to the waiter. Give them the best meal in the house, he said, and pack something for them to take home. The woman shook her head. No, please, I can't accept, he interrupted softly. You already gave me something far greater. This is just my thank you. The boy looked up. Mom, are you crying? She laughed through her tears. No, sweetheart. These are happy tears. Around the restaurant, the people who had whispered before now watched in silence. Some looked ashamed when the meal ended. Richard sat and talked with her. She explained she'd lost her job when the diner closed, and she'd been cleaning offices part-time ever since. Richard listened carefully, then reached into his pocket and handed her a card. My company's hiring, he said. Come by Monday morning. Tell them Richard Miller sent you. She stared at the card, stunned. Are you serious? He smiled, completely. Someone once helped me when I was down. I think it's time I do the same. The boy grinned. Does that mean Mommy won't have to work at night anymore? Richard smiled back. That's the plan. As they left, the same hostess who had turned them away opened the door with an apologetic smile. Have a lovely evening. Ma'am, she said gently. The mother smiled. Thank you. Outside, the snow had stopped. Streetlights glowed softly on the wet pavement. The boy jumped into a puddle, laughing, his joy echoing through the night. Richard watched from the window. For the first time in years, he felt peace, not the kind that comes from success, but the kind that comes from doing something right. Greg looked over. Didn't know you had a soft spot for charity, he said. Richard turned to him. That's not charity, he said quietly. That's gratitude. A week later, Richard stood in front of his office building as employees rushed in with coffee cups and briefcases. Then he saw her, the woman from the restaurant, walking nervously toward the entrance. Her son holding her hand. Good morning. Richard greeted her with a smile. Good morning, she said softly. I still can't believe this is real. Believe it, Richard said. You earned it a long time ago. He showed her to the front desk. You'll be working in the hospitality department. Flexible hours, good pay. And he smiled at the boy. We'll help you find a good school nearby. Tears filled her eyes. I don't know how to thank you. You already did, he said. 15 years ago, with a bowl of soup. That day, a poor mother walked into a fancy restaurant and walked out with her dignity restored, her hope renewed, and her future changed. Sometimes, the smallest act of kindness can echo for years, finding its way back to us when we least expect it. And maybe, just maybe, we all have the power to be someone's miracle, the way she once was for him. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, And subscribe asterisk to Kindness Untold Story asterisk. Share it with someone who still believes that goodness can change the world, because it truly can. And remember, asterisk asterisk kindness costs nothing, but changes everything asterisk asterisk.